Welcome to today's video, guys. You can tell by the thumbnail, you know what we're talking about. Let's get on the road. Let's get going. We got lots to talk about, but real quick, actually, let me get a thumbnail for you guys real quick here. Welcome to today's video, guys. You see the thumbnail, you know what we're talking about, so let's get into it. I want to talk about the Ford Mustang and the stereotype that it has, the reputation that it has for crashing. I am in my 06 Mustang GT. It is canned. I'm not making a ton of power by any means. I am a car guy. I do own a Dodge Charger Scat Pack, which has the factory 485 horsepower, as well as, if you've been following my channel, I do have a MK4 Super. I've been talking about forever getting back to the channel. That's going to be making quite a bit more power than the rest of the cars that I own. But just to give you kind of an idea that I'm not just a Mustang guy, or that I've driven some fast cars. We'll also discuss that a little bit further as well. So I'll be the first guy to tell you that really, I think, you know, we can all laugh and all make a couple of jokes here and there about the stereotypes about these cars. When I think of Mustangs crashing, I feel bad for this guy, but what video do I think about the most? I think of that white Shelby GT500, the S197 chassis, the 07 to 09. That guy came out with way too much on the throttle, could not counter steer, nowhere near fast enough, and went right into the crowd, of course, and I had to just gently tap, I think, someone at the end, at the very end of the clip, just to insult the injury of that poor guy. I think everyone was okay. But, you know, I want to discuss with you guys, you know, we have a young audience, right? So the issue that I'm starting to have is a lot of people really feel as though that Mustangs have like an issue, or there's a suspension issue or a flaw in the design, that everyone's crashing them. And factually speaking, it's just not true. So let's talk about some facts real quick, shall we? Looking at vehicles that are actually prone for accidents, I was surprised at what I found on the list. The car that I found in my research was number one on my list was actually the Infiniti Q50. My good friend Joe, shout out to him, congratulations to him. He just picked up, I think it was the Q. I get the 50 and 60 mixed up. I think the 50 is a 4-door. He got the 50 Q50S Redline, you know, twin turbo, like factory 400 horsepower, and it's a beautiful car. But that car's number one. I was surprised. Number two, shocks me as well, is the Lexus GS 350. And then, of course, number three is the Acura. I think it was the TLX, not the ILX. I can't quite remember now. But I'm not sure what it is with you Honda guys. Like, Mustang's rear-wheel drive is V8. I mean, I don't understand how these guys are crashing these other cars. I kind of can see the Q50 and his rear-wheel drive. At least they have a rear-wheel drive platform. So, all joking aside, like I said, I am a car guy, but I want to talk about the facts first. So, you know, why does the Mustang have that stereotype, and these other cars that, statistically speaking, are more prone to accidents don't? And by the way, you can look at the internet, and there are plenty of videos of other cars, Corvettes, Hellcats, all sorts of videos of cars just crashing nonstop, just inexperienced people, or even people just doing things they have no business doing, crashing their cars. So, let's talk about, I think, the most number one stereotype that frustrates me personally, is you'll hear a lot about live axle. You'll hear that a lot. Like this particular Mustang that I'm in, the S197, is a live axle rear end. Most of the Mustangs are, minus the very newest chassis, the S550, is an independent rear suspension. Before that, it was really exclusive to the 03, 04 Cobra. I want to say the 99 Cobra and like the 2000 Cobra R, as far as having that type of independent rear suspension. So what is a live axle versus independent rear? Let's discuss that real quick first, shall we? So if you look at the rear end of the vehicle, independent rear end is essentially when the axles are independent from one another. So like they could easily travel like this. Like if they were hitting a bump or going into any type of issue, the suspension could travel separately. Ooh, a beautiful 488 Ferrari. Can't show you guys, so I don't got the whole camera out. So the suspension travels independently from one another, where a live axle, the axle, as you can imagine, is solid. It's one piece connected to the diff versus an independent. So as you can see in the graph I'm showing here, it kind of shows you that, you know, the difference between the two. And once again, you can see that the axles are independent versus a solid rear end, or live axles they call it. So let me tell you guys one thing right away. So you'll hear that a lot, you know, and people seem to confuse the live axle versus the IRS for handling versus the way a vehicle puts the power down. And when it comes to doing burnouts, when it comes to the way these cars get like sideways, it's more to do with how the power gets put down versus the car handling. Usually when people are crashing, they're leaving a car show and they're on the gas or they're kicking it out, and it has a lot to do with how the car puts the power down. Now keep in mind, I've driven a lot of fast cars myself, not just cars that I own. I've driven AMGs, RS7s, I've driven GTRs, I've driven Corvettes, I've driven other Mustangs, and my Mustang was, before I blew up the core engine, was turbocharged, so it made a good amount of power. As you can see here, like this Mustang, the way it put the power down was never an issue. I could do burnouts on it in stock. I could do burnouts when it was turbocharged, making almost 500 wheel. And I just didn't have the issue. So if, believe it or not, the way the live axle puts the power down is better and more rigid and stronger than an independent rear. Matter of fact, the fastest accelerating land cars, okay, let's look at drag cars, a funny car, a drag car, guess what they have? They don't have IRS. You know what they have? They have a live axle. Why is that, right? So they have it because the way it's sturdier, and it's the way the car puts the power down. I've driven my friend's Fox body all hooked up, and even when that thing was doing burnouts, it was so stable, had such capabilities, it was like ridiculous. Let's get going here, shall we? Alright, that rear end just got, I mean, I probably can't tell in the video, but that was not a big deal, guys. The other thing a lot of people do is they get scared. They're showing off. They got a big crowd of people, and they're putting themselves in positions they shouldn't be putting themselves in. And the worst thing they usually do is hit the brakes. It's a big no-no. So that's the live axles. The IRS, as I mentioned, is independent rear. So a lot of people, you'll hear like you actually listen to the experts. What they'll say is when a live axle gets sketchy is when when the car hits a bump. That's when this car might sketch me out, if I'm going around a turn pretty quickly. Now, this car was never a good handling car. We'll discuss that further. But when I'm going around a turn quickly, if I hit a bump, my rear end kicks up a little bit, that could be kind of sketchy because it's a live axle. But really, a lot of the suspension issues this car had was the fact that it just had, you know, it wasn't set up for handling. The shocks were real soft. It gave it a nice ride, but I upgraded everything in this car. It's got Coney shocks and struts, and it's been lowered. It's got sway bars. So the way this car handles versus the way this car handles stock, it's night and day. I'm not saying it's a WRX or any of these other Corvettes or GTRs or anything like that, but it would surprise you. I think the last thing we need to discuss, guys, is so why does the Mustang have the stereotype? Like, I mean, there's definitely plenty of footage of these cars crashing all over the place, and you know, why is that? I do have some theories that I think make sense. I mean, first of all, it is a rear-wheel drive vehicle. It is a V8, and it is abundant. I mean, the Mustang's the only pony car I can think of that's been made forever. I mean, these cars are just mass-produced. They're cheap. I mean, you can get this 3-valve real cheap. I mean, you can definitely get these way under $10,000. If we go back and look at the Shelby, okay, the car that I showed in the first part of the video that crashed, those cars are so mod-friendly. They're so fast. It is unreal how cheap you can get them. I forget how much I was looking at them, but I think I found one that was already modified. You can get off of cars.com for I think it was below 30 with 700 wheel horsepower. So you can get a car with 700 wheel plus horsepower on pump gas used for under $30,000, and that's a GT500. I think I've seen them as cheap as like lower 20s now. So, you know, you can get a Mustang cheap, and I think that's one of the factors. If you're, guys, I'm going to wrap up this video. If you like the video, please smash that like button. You probably know at this point how this works. The more you smash that like button, the more this video gets circulated around, and then more people subscribe. Speaking of subscribing, if you like the video, please smash that subscribe button so you can see other videos like this. If you want to follow the channel and follow what I do with my vehicles, obviously comment below. I love the conversation. Tell me what you think. Am I being reasonable? Do you think there's a reason why Mustangs have this stereotype that they have? Is there other vehicles that you think should have this stereotype? Tell me think below, guys. But I'm getting out of here. The sun on its way down, and you guys have a fantastic night. Peace.